Welcome to episode 1069 of the Geek News Center podcast. It's Monday, October 19th. This show is sponsored in part by GoDaddy.com and listeners just like you. Great deals from GoDaddy can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Support this show today at geeknewscentral.com/insider or just paypal.me/geeknews. Pick up our Ohana gear at cafepress.com/Ohana store. Hey, I want to give everyone a warm welcome to the show. Of course, again, my name is Todd Cochran. Absolutely thrilled to be with you. It's a interesting evening here. I have a cello player, my son, who got started a little bit late tonight. So if you hear overtones of a cello in the background, let me that's that's the way it is. I do think that my camera color is off a little bit because I look like I'm sunburned. I didn't just notice that until now, but anyway, so if you're watching live, I think a color tone got off, or maybe my blood pressure's up, who knows. But hey, I want to give, again, warm welcome to the Ohana, long-time listener to the show, and if you're brand new to the podcast, I want to welcome you to the show, and I want to encourage you to get over to geeknewscentral.com to subscribe to the show and newsletter. Of course, we want you to visit Geek News Central daily to read all the great content that's on the website. If you've got comments on today's show, you can basically contact me at geeknews@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me via Twitter at Geek News. That's a way to stay connected. And we want to hear your feedback. And boy, oh boy, last show, feedback you did. So we'll talk about that, of course, in a few minutes here. But you can follow me on Google+, on Facebook. You can watch the show on the Roku. You can watch on the Apple TV. You can listen on Amazon Echo. All you have to do is tell Alexa to play Geek News Central podcast. Or you can listen on Stitcher over at Blueberry.com. And, of course, over the Tech Podcast Network at techpodcast.com as well. We got partner shows at Geek News Central. We've got No Better Than Average, brand new show that's with the network with Jacob and Jeff. Definitely check them out. We got Health Tech Weekly with Jamie Davis, the Gadget Professor, Mr. Don Bain. The Elder Divide with Mr. Todd Ani. Of course, we've got the Pro Gear site that you can review. And a couple of more shows coming down the pike. So we're excited about that. Of course, GoDaddy is the longest continuous running sponsor of a podcast. This podcast been with us for 10 plus years. We want to thank the folks over at GoDaddy for being a longtime sponsor here. All these codes that I'm going to share with you can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. And really, it is the time of the season to make some decisions on picking up new domain names, picking up hosting accounts. This is a great opportunity right now with the discounts we have on tap for you in October to be able to, for a better word, invest in your future. And we'd like to have you think about doing a podcast or doing a blog or enhancing your business. And you can do that with a product over at GoDaddy.com by saving 30% on new product orders by using my 30% off code. You can get a .com, a single, one-time only .com for 99 cents. Or if you want to pick up a domain name with every hosting account, with my code, you get a domain name, website builder, Microsoft Outlook email address with website builder. You get economy hosting with a free domain. You can get managed WordPress hosting with a free domain. All those accounts start at $1 a month for 12 months. See details on the website. But again, all the codes CJC, GNC 30, CJC, GNC 99, CJC, GNC GOT, CJC, GNC 1HS, CJC, GNC WP1. And details on how to use the codes are there on the website. Come over there. All you have to do is click one, and it takes you over to GoDaddy, and you can start saving money. Make sure those codes get locked in at checkout. Don't let another code override. Share my codes with your friends, family members, people that you know. Post them on your Facebook page, on your Twitter page. Provide a link back to geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. That helps me continue to keep the lights on here, keep the family fed, and do what we do, or do what I do. I don't know why I say why we do, but I think what it is when I say we, I'm thinking about you and I. Talked about that a little bit on the new media show this past Saturday. How another host had a tendency to say the same thing a lot. It's a we versus I. But whenever I'm doing this show, it's not like I know that you're listening later, but at the same time, I know we're all together as part of a team, as part of Ohana. So, and of course, those of you new that don't know what the word Ohana means, I live here in Hawaii, and Ohana is family. So we want to welcome you to the family, and that's when I say we, that's what I mean. But we want to thank GoDaddy for being a longtime sponsor here at Geek News Central. We should be in the Guinness Book of World Records, except I don't even know how to submit that. But it is your support and your utilization of these codes and your sharing of the codes that allow me to continue to really move the ball forward here in the things that we do. And I greatly appreciate it. And thank you for your ongoing support of our sponsor at GoDaddy.com. Okay, so let me go ahead here and move into the my stack of stuff that I have for you. And first thing I'm going to talk about is the email replies from my discussion about presidential candidate Hillary Rodham Clinton. We are a very wide divide apart in this country. I can tell by the emails because they were either, well, I shouldn't say, there wasn't very many down the middle. You either were hard right or you were hard left. Not very much room in between, and that's kind of sad. And and a lot of you asked me not to read, or actually say your names on the show. Almost to a T. I will probably, I don't know, I got a debate here on whether or not I want to read any of these because it could just stoke the fire even more. And but I will say that we ran about 50-50 on opinions. Some people said yes, she should be prosecuted and go to jail, where the others were, she didn't do anything wrong. And you're listening to the Koch brothers, and believe me, I have no idea besides what people are always like. These two, it must be there's a way people, the way, at least on the emails that came in, it sounded like they were like the devil incarnate or something. And I'm like, okay, I don't even know who these two dudes are. So, and then obviously on the other side, it was like, yes, tar and feather her and send her to jail. So it was really on both sides, but it just proved to me, and what I hope to not end up being a political discussion on the show, definitely turned into political commentary comeback. There's a few people that laid out step by step by step. This is what my opinion is, what she or she has not done, what has been admitted, what hasn't. What it really boiled down to on most individuals' concerns was not so much about the actual emails and the server, but more about the classified information that was on the servers. That was kind of the ongoing. And I had a lot of federal people, a lot. The federal people that replied, military and government people, were about 90% to the right and about 10% to the left from just the government folks that replied. Because, most of the government people have had training. They know what they're supposed to do, not supposed to do. They go through 3-4 trainings a year saying, these are the rules of the road. Information assurance, a variety of different trainings that have to be done. And maybe that upper echelon of folks don't have to do those types of training. Maybe they're exempt. But I will tell you this, the average mainstream employees definitely knew what they were allowed to do and what they weren't. And that ran about 90-10. And then the non-federal folks, it was pretty split down the middle. But love you guys all. Love your all's opinions. That's what this show's all about. I want to hear from you and, tell me what you think. So I appreciate all the feedback, and we'll respect those of you who said don't read on the air. But boy, oh boy, that particular article generated the most email this show has got in easily a year. So I definitely tripped a few of you guys' triggers. I don't know if we lost anybody or not. If we did, Ohana is designed, this family, we can agree to disagree, right? I think most of us are about 80% on the same side most of the time. At least I hope you are, and stuff that I talk about in this show. But anyway, good commentary to all of you. Very, very good. And again, I'll decide at the end of whether or not we're going to go into any of these. I'm going to be careful because it's just going to, throw more gasoline on the fire. What we really need right now is just kind of a slow burn. Okay. I went to get a new chair yesterday, and this chair was not on sale. And you guys, oh, you can get the compressor, the rod in the middle replaced, lifetime warranties, this and that. And I told him, I said, sometimes most people are just kind of ready for a new chair. I can get this fixed up, and get the stuff shipped in. But at some point, it's just time for a new chair. And I wasn't really ready to plunk down another $800 for another chair. So I'm going to wait a little bit, shop around. But Eurotech continues to be like the number one seller here, at least locally. The guy told me there's still nothing that compares to the Eurotech chairs. And maybe some of you have a different opinion, but I like the lumbar support on these chairs and the ability to change them up. It's just, and again, I spend a lot of time, so it's important for me to be comfortable. But one thing I'd like to do is change the mat that's on the floor to a glass mat, because sometimes I get stuck and I can't move around as easy, which is not good for the core. So that's kind of the first step we're going to do, is try to find a glass or something that's different than what we're sitting on right now, or what I'm sitting on right now. Okay. Bada bing, bada boom. I did, though. My wife has kind of put we had planned to replace the stuff back here 2 or 3 years ago at a minimum. We'd actually put a order in, then canceled later, and a whole variety of things. But it's time to maybe make the change back there. And I think we found some furniture. It's not perfect for a backdrop on what I want. So I've got to get some measurements in, see what will fit back there, and how I can rearrange what is in there into the new furniture mock-up. But maybe finally being able to do that. Did buy some more basically bookshelves that are a little bit deeper that'll work in the studio. So I am going to be doing a little bit of tear down, just aesthetics only in here. So I'm looking forward to being able to do that. We pick up some of that stuff tomorrow, but I'm going to be looking closely tonight at the measurements back here and see how much space I've got. Oh, well, I do want to share something with you guys. When I was about 18, maybe 17, I was exposed to a business opportunity that I got involved with that did me very well for a number of years. And it's one that many of you probably have had exposure to in the past. It's a multi-level marketing, and I'm not here to pitch you guys on an MLM at all. But I had failed to renew that business a couple of years ago. Just things were crazy, missed the renewal, hadn't been using their services and stuff that they offered as much. But I got exposed recently to some of their new products they've got available. And just for my own personal utilization, I went back on their website today and tried to regenerate my old account. That didn't work, so I had to set up a new account. But it is kind of interesting that when you become accustomed to a certain line of products that you've used them over the years, on when you've been away from something for a little bit and how you want to come back to it. And podcasts are kind of the same way. I've had a number of you have been emailing me, say, "Hey Todd, I'm back. I've been gone for a year." So it's just like anything else. We all have different stages in our lives, and so if you ever decide to leave, you can come back anytime. Okay, don't be afraid to come back. I'll still be here. The Ohana will still be here. And we know sometimes people need to take a break, but we, don't go away too long. But I know there's lots of shows out there competing for your time. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on, and I'll get into my full stack of stuff that I have. And boy, I'm going to tonight's show. Whew, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, a lot of good stuff tonight. And I was, I said I don't have too many articles, and then I was like, but I can talk 15 minutes on this one and 20 minutes on that one, and so I'm going to start right off with the one that made the headlines today all over the place. The U.S. Transportation Department confirms drone registration. So you may call your remote control quadcopter a toy drone, but of course the U.S. government's an unmanned aircraft system, and it needs some red tape. The rumors are true. The Department of Transportation is creating a mandatory registration process for drones and unmanned aircraft. Today it officially announced the program, and a task force will recommend policies and safety standards. It's an issue of safety, says the FAA Administrator Michael Herrera. The FAA's administration receives complaints dealing with the unsafe operation of drones on a daily basis. He says it's dangerous sounding stuff. Near misses with manned aircraft, interference with firefighter operations, and more. These reports signal a troubling trend. They go on to say registration will make sure that the operator knows the rules and remain accountable to the public for applying their unmanned aircraft responsibility. So here's the question. Will model airplane people also now be required to register their model aircraft? We have a flight ceiling of 400 feet, so do they, and not within 5 miles of an airport, so do they. Matter of fact, they get exemptions. Sometimes they can fly near airports when there are non-flight hours around military bases. I know that happens a lot. But they are trying to figure out if any of the drones are going to be exempt and what will need to be registered. And they're going to have some recommendations by the 20th of November. So this is a big deal. And for those that, like me, that are flying legally and flying carefully, it's probably a good thing. But at the same time, I get to thinking a little bit, and it's not always possible not to fly over someone's house. As a matter of fact, it's very, very difficult to stay, let's say, fly along roads and so forth. It's, it's an unmanned aircraft, so it's designed to, go as a crow flies. And I'm questioning what will happen as we move forward with, accidents happen. You definitely, if you crash something in someone's yard, you're going to want to go knock on the door and get it. But what happens when, in a big city, someone puts a drone on a roof, they crash into the side of a building, and while it may not cause any damage to the building, in most cases the propellers are plastic, so probably will not, maybe fall harmlessly to the ground. What will happen to individuals that were maybe a owner of a building or the management of a building will come out and grab that drone, call the FAA, it'll tie it back to you, and even if you were in a AKA legal airspace and made a mistake and, your drone got off course or was lost connection and crashed, what will be the penalty, if any? And what will be the ramification of being arrested and a whole bunch of other items? There won't be an anonymity anymore if you're flying your drone legal. So the DOT is going to work with 25 representatives from manned aircraft industries to deliver recommendations. So, but you heard that? 25 representatives from manned aircraft industries, not drone industries. They're not going to have DJI in. So the manned industry is very much about protecting their own, and they will definitely be wanting to put restrictions and a variety of different licenses. I'm sure there's going to be some. They're going to come up with something here that's going to make it a challenge. Now, should we expect it? I guess, because there's been people who have been abusing flight restricted altitudes have been going above 400 feet. When I fly my DJI, when it gets to 400 feet, basically I've got a button slid on there that basically doesn't allow the drone to go any higher. Now, if I'm on the ground, I can disable that, but there's this huge warning that pops up and says, you understand you're responsible and it's illegal for you to fly above 400 feet. They do allow you to turn that safety mechanism off. So what will be the situation here? Will they then say, okay, that's mandatory, that button can't be turned off? And will people then say, okay, because I can't, I'm going to hack around the software? So this could turn into a battle. But we'll see what the recommendations are if they announce them on November 20th. But there is an official announcement on the transportation.gov website. So yes, they don't like our little tiny drones. Jack, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I know you're a pilot, and you probably have some opinions. But let's just go on the pretense that the majority of people are flying at 400 feet maximum, and they're flying outside of the 5-mile zone of an airport. What are your thoughts? And should there be ramifications for someone that is in a safe area but crashes their drone into a building? Or besides the building issue, should the FAA be able to fine you for losing control of your unmanned aircraft? Very, very good question to be asked. So I'd love to hear you guys' feedback. geeknews@gmail.com. Switching up totally here to a different article, totally different theme. Your family DNA could be used against you by law. 5 years ago, privacy advocates warned about the potential risks to privacy posed by massive genetic databases. They're indeed causing problems. Two popular genealogy websites, Ancestry.com and 23andMe, both maintain such databases on behalf of private citizens. Now there's at least one case on record of Ancestry data being used in a murder case, and 23andMe has seen a few requests too. Now, if you are, let's use a hypothetical situation. If you are suspected of a crime and asked to provide a DNA sample, you do not have to, because it can be a form of self-incrimination. But if you take a drink out of a glass, lick a fork, leave skin in a hotel room from, just sleeping in a bed, whatever way they can get DNA, they can capture that. But now, detectives are able to run a familia DNA search, which is done by cross-referencing a genetics database made by law enforcement with this, in this case, a private genetics database put together by Ancestry.com for people who are simply curious about where they came from. And in this individual's case, officers were able to get a warrant for his cheek cells because during the DNA search, his father's cells had nearly matched a killer's cells with basically a certain percentage of the cells or whatever it was in common. So this gentleman who was accused is off the hook because it took 33 because they got a warrant to get a sample, but it took 33 days to clear his name. But it appears now that these databases can be used for law enforcement in ways that carry real consequences for people who have committed no crimes. Fusion reports that the privacy policies to both Ancestry.com and 23andMe state that the site will give data to law enforcement if they receive a court order. Although 23andMe has resisted a few requests already from state-level officers and the FBI. Now, as being a retired military guy, my DNA, no, matter of fact, all military guys, anyone that's ever been in the military, they do a DNA, a blood DNA pull on you, put it on it's on a DNA card, and that is stored someplace in the National Archive. Now, the reason that they utilize this is if I'm out in the war front, and let's say I'm in an airplane, and I go down in a plane, and they come in and recover my body many years later. They can use the DNA that's on the registry to match up with me to say, yep, this is Todd's body. We can prove it because we have his DNA. We can go bury him with honors. He's not going to be an unknown. So active duty today have DNA on file. So if, God forbid, that something would ever happen where I would be suspected of a crime, they don't have to get DNA from me. It's on file. And a lot of people submit DNA for a variety of different reasons. So it's a now again, you can deny until they give you a warrant, and if they get a warrant, they can take your DNA by force. So it's not like you're going to get out of it unless but they have to find you first, right? So what really is going on here is there's a lack of transparency around current standard practices for collecting DNA, and how many private individuals are compelled to have their cheeks swabbed after a database pulls up one of their relatives. And does law enforcement get to keep that DNA on file even if the person ends up having no connection to a crime? And here's another question. How many relatives have filed their DNA away in a private database? So it does bring up some new questions here as we move into new ways of law enforcement trying to find their man or woman. And don't get me wrong, I hope law enforcement uses every tool in their book to be able to capture someone that has murdered someone or created, done a heinous crime that needs to be prosecuted. I want law enforcement to have within their disposal and within their legal right to be able to get DNA from a suspect. But the question then really becomes is, are you essentially, by permitting your this information to go on these other websites, are you now setting yourself up or a family member, that they may use a cross-reference to get, because, my DNA and my wife's DNA, that amount of that is passed down to our kids, so there's markers there they can tell. So I guess that's the question. So again, your family DNA could be used against you by the law. So just be aware. Be aware. Over in space.com and actually at NASA, they have NASA set up a new website where there is new videos or new pictures every day of Earth. There's a cool video out. One full day from 1 million miles, 27 images, and but it's very cool. This new website for its Deep Space Climate Observatory mission, again, will be updated daily with images captured 12 to 36 hours prior. And what the space.com has up on the website is 22 images from October 17th. But very, very slick. It's just that satellite sitting out there just looking back at Earth and snapping away. Awesome. Hey, space.com. SpaceX has changed its Falcon 9 rocket return to flight plans. So this is exciting. SpaceX said it's changed its Falcon 9 return to flight plans and would launch 11 small Orbcomm messaging satellites into low Earth orbit and then test reignition of the rocket's redesigned second stage engine during the same flight before launching what's known as the SES's heavier telecommunication satellite into a higher orbit. So Luxembourg-based SES said the company was comfortable with ceding its slot to the New Jersey-based Orbcomm, especially since SpaceX said it can launch the SES-9 telecommunications satellite into geostationary orbit in late December. So looks like we're getting ready to go back to flight with Space.com. So very, very cool. Or SpaceX, excuse me. At the same time, the SETI folks are getting all ramped up on the article that we talked, or the articles that we talked about in the recent show about that star that's out there that they're trying to figure out what the objects are around it. So a little bit of history on SETI on space.com. So I'll have that link up in the show notes for you to check out as well. It cracks me up today, the number of closed ecosystems that are still in existence. And you have, in the article this refers to over at selflender.com. This is a company that is starting to do loans. They were trying to tie into financial systems by major banks. And Self-Lender needed to integrate into a bank partner's back-end software. They had done the request. They waited patiently for 8 weeks for a phone call that would dictate the integration costs and timeline. And to their dismay, they found out that they needed 5 figures and X number of months to just get API documentation and sandbox API access, which would allow them to perform the integration. On top of that, they would need to pay a large 6-figure annual fee to have access to the bank data. And they flipped out. You've got a company that is trying to move quick. They've got a programming team. And when they did some research, according to American Banker, just 4 companies control 96% of what's commonly referred to as the core banking software. DH, Jack Henry, FIS, and FIServe. All these are multi-billion-dollar companies who are getting huge amount of revenues from banks every year. Most banks are paying anywhere from $113K to $349,000 per bank to get access to some of this, what was really old infrastructure, old core, COBOL, mainframe type of bank data. So with these 4 core providers controlling 96% of what's being called the core processing market in banking, they basically said, forget it. This is going to cost us crazy. The processing fees alone, just to do a single loan, to do the transaction data, would be like $21 per loan. And they were doing small loans, so sometimes they wouldn't make enough in interest to actually process the loans. And so they basically said, forget it. They built their own core. And they're about ready to go through a major audit to prove that to their partners that they don't need essentially to be tied into these other systems. So what they've done is they've worked their way around an ecosystem that is made up of the old school. So every time I see articles like this, it reminds me of the podcasting space of being able to work around the old school and all the disruptive stuff that is happening in the space right now should be making many of these companies that are, they're these linchpins, are the ones that control everything. It should make them very, very scared that, maybe they're a little more susceptible to being worked around than they were in the past. But I thought this was pretty good. But again, this is written on the selflender.com blog and talking about how innovation is broken at the core, and they were referring to banking core. But any of you in the banking business that listen to the show probably familiar with these core fees that you have to pay, processing fees. And really the reason you're paying those fees, it's the ones that control the bottom data, the big spreadsheet in the sky that has all our bank balances on it. So very, very cool. Hey, one thing I did over the past couple of days is set up a dual authentication on my Facebook app on my mobile device. And if you haven't done that yet, it might be time to set up double authentication as a security, basically as a security measure to keep your Facebook account from being hacked. But Facebook says it's going to warn users of government-sponsored attacks against their accounts as well. So the message they're sending is interesting. Jay, we believe your Facebook account and your other online accounts may be the target of attacks from state-sponsored actors. Turning on login approvals will help keep others from logging into your Facebook account. Whenever your account is accessed from a new device or browser, we'll send a security code to your phone so that only you can log in. We recommend that you also take steps to secure the accounts you use on other services. So they're going to be sending people notes when a state sponsor attacks. Now, that doesn't mean state sponsors gotten a search warrant and is going to get into your account. This means when your online account may be the target of attack from a state-sponsored terrorist. China, Iran, all those countries that are out there trying to dig into their own populaces and other individuals' accounts. So just be aware that Facebook is taking proactive measures. The cable company's pretty full of themselves. They are thinking cord cutting is a fad that will end once millennials start having babies. Well, I will admit that some millennials will probably sign up for cable because they need Barney to babysit their kids. I don't know if the Barney's still on any of the channels. It was when we were, when I had youngins. But they think the behavior could change once the so-called millennials start having families. So what do you think? Think that's going to happen, millennials? Any millennials listening to the show that would care to weigh in? They're pretty full of themselves. Oh, by the way, any University of Michigan fans listening to the show? Oh, I am so sorry. I'm wearing a green shirt today for a reason. Congratulations for Michigan State University for recovering the punt fumble and running it in for a touchdown to meet U of M. I think it was just an absolutely wonderful turnover. And I know I have a number of family members that listen to this show that are U of M fans. So sorry. You got to feel bad, though, for the punter. Can you imagine a kid going back to school today? He probably didn't go back to school. He's probably in hiding. I actually heard super fans that super fans should be ashamed of themselves, sending death threats against this college student. You got to remember these are 18 to 23-year-olds. They're young, and they make mistakes and a lot of pressure playing this game. So while I don't follow football too much, and only in instances like this where I get to kind of jab a little bit, it's too bad. It really is that people are sending death threats against the guy that had some issues. All right, I want to bring your attention to an article on Geek News Central. Amazon cracking down on fake customer reviews. This is if you have a Fiverr account and you are doing fake reviews for Amazon customers, you may find yourself at the end of a lawsuit. An Amazon investigation allegedly found more than 1,000 people on Fiverr offering to create fake Amazon reviews. Most promised positive or 5-star reviews. So Amazon is filing a lawsuit against more than 1,000 people who had allegedly offered to hire themselves out as fake reviewers at $5 a review. I'd like to see SoundCloud do the same thing for their fake reviewers too, because you can buy fake SoundCloud reviews as well. So they're not playing here. So if you've had to get, if you're, and I'm sure these are a lot of overseas people, so I'm sure they're not going to be able to get access to a lot of these folks. But if someone's been using Fiverr to write fake reviews at $5 a pop, then Amazon's probably got a piece of paper for you asking for some payment. But yeah, crazy stuff here. And Amazon doesn't like those fake reviews, and I can understand why. I've written a number of reviews, but I only write on stuff that I've actually bought. So I've never been asked to do a fake review. All right, tricky new malware replaces your entire browser with a dangerous Chrome lookalike. The malicious browser looks and acts just like Chrome, except for all the pop-up ads, system file hijacking, and activity monitoring. You think it would be the the real deal, but it's not. So just be aware that if you all of a sudden Chrome starts acting in a way that it's not supposed to, you may be the recipient of having accessed or implemented the eFast browser. And again, it only works by installing and running itself in place of Chrome, and it's pretty nasty and a little bit difficult to uninstall. Now, if you're downloading software on the internet, there's a program called Unchecky that can help with it can help you sort out bundleware. You download a shareware program or something that's free, you can basically look and see using Unchecky what's installed in that executable, so that you can keep from being because I've gotten busted, a couple of times over many years of the same issue. So just be aware that this is out there, and you could be a victim of it if you're not paying attention. You just got to click one thing the wrong time. Hey, New York Police Department is caught using X-ray vans to search the public, but they're refusing a court order to release details. For more than 3 years, ProPublica has been fighting the NYPD to disclose the details of its fleet of X-ray vans. Earlier this year, New York State Supreme Court Judge Doris Ling Cohan ruled that the NYPD couldn't shield itself from the Freedom of Information request simply because disclosing fleet details could interfere with ongoing investigations. The New York Civil Liberties Union has filed an amicus brief, friend of the court brief, arguing against NYPD's position, but New York Police Commissioner Bill Bratton continues to stonewall reporters. He says, "Those are issues I'd prefer not to divulge to the public at this time. I will not talk about anything at all about this. It falls in the range of security and counterterrorism activity that we engage in." So basically, a police department is telling a judge to go pack sand, and he is not going to allow any intermission on their backscatter. These are the same type of X-ray machines that you walk through an airport and hold your hands up for, which I opt out of. They basically do the same thing, but with more power. And the NYPD's failure to turn over information related to the use of these technologies runs afoul of multiple Supreme Court rulings and safety regulations. So they are fighting this big time. I never knew that when a judge says you shall, a police department or a government agency, especially if it's not a federal agency, if just it's a police department, for God's sakes, can say no, can tell the judge to pack sand. And it blows me away that a judge cannot force this. There's something really, really wrong in this country when a judge, for better or worse, makes a decision and they say no, especially when it's went to the Supreme. It's not the lower court. Really, really amazing. Did any of you guys know that Larry Lessig was running for president? Larry Lessig has dumped his promise to resign the presidency in an attempt to get people to take his campaign seriously. I didn't even know about this. But apparently he's running for president. And he was trying to reform campaign finance laws. And basically he's running for president to put in place serious campaign reform laws and then resign from the presidency. That's what he said he was going to do. He was going to run, get elected. He was going to put in place campaign finance reform and then say, okay, I'm done. But now he's reevaluated, and he's come out with platform policies on national security, equal healthcare reform, criminal justice reform, education, immigration reform, government surveillance, the environment, the internet tax reform, war on drugs, etc. So he's running as a Democrat. But the DNC, and he's gotten some polls showing he's got some about like 1% based upon some of the other candidates that are running, or like 1%ers. But the DNC refuses to acknowledge his candidacy, which is pretty crazy. But this guy's pretty well known, at least out on the West Coast. So we'll have to see how this turns out. I didn't even know. So it's very, very surprising to me. All right, Twitter did announce back in September that they are going to remove the count from the tweet buttons. And we're now on the countdown here, just about a month away before they are going to remove the number of tweets someone tweets on a website. And I'm thinking to myself, why are they doing this? This is total insanity. Because and really what they're saying is, well, it takes a lot of server resources to put that number on every person's webpage. Yes, but that's how we're measuring engagement. If you're going to take the number of tweets that are being pushed off my website, if you're going to remove that counter, well, maybe it's time for me to remove the Twitter link. I just find this totally acidine that they're doing that. I just feel what's going to happen here is there's going to be less tweets. There's going to be reduced importance by folks like me. It hurts application creators. It's going to make Twitter less useful. And really doing away with the tweet count feature instead of upgrading is pretty lazy on Twitter's part. They cannot be trusted anymore. And I talked about this a little bit on my website the other day. Do not build your business model around someone else's platform ever. And you know, it's and I don't know, this term is probably derogatory. I probably can't use the word. It's slang. It's basically, okay, we're going to give you something, and now we're going to take it away. All right, I'm going to borrow you. I'm going to let you borrow my lawnmower. No. I'm going to give you my lawnmower. And then 2 days later, go over and say, I want it back. I want my lawnmower back. You can't have it. I'm taking it back. That's what Twitter's doing. Not borrowing. They give and they're taking back. So I think this is a big mistake, and I hope people outcry about it a lot. I hate to say it, but it's too late for those of you that are not listening. I saw this today, and I almost wish I had bought a Nexus 6 or Nexus 5 phone, but Google opens up Project Fi to everyone for just today. So this is a great deal. $20, unlimited voice, unlimited text, and then you just pay $10 a gig for whatever. And if you use 4 gigs, you get charged $40. If you use 10, you get a charge an extra $100. But there's no, you don't lose. You only pay for what you use. So it was open today, and they let anyone that signed up to be able to have one of these phones that support it to be able to, in essence, become part of it. So I don't know if this is a sign that maybe they're going to open it up more. I don't know. All right, Popcorn Time for your browser makes illegal moving streaming even easier. So just be careful when you go over to browser popcorn.xyz and get one of these. Everything that you play on that browser will be tracked by your ISP, so you could end up with some copyright violations. At the same time, a rumored lawsuit from Hollywood combined with disagreement about money and power has broken up the team behind the most popular Popcorn Time application. Several prominent developers left the project this weekend after a plan to start over anew failed. With millions of users, PopcornTime.io is arguably the most used Popcorn Time fork around. The application is the top result when searching for Popcorn Time online. But behind the scenes, there's been some disagreements and maybe threat of a lawsuit from Hollywood, which I'm surprised hasn't come already. But thing may be collapsing underneath its own weight. And a Microsoft exec says cumulative Windows 10 updates are better than the alternative, aka not getting updates. And a lot of IT administrators and managers are not happy with the way Windows 10 is rolled out and how they update. They're forced to take it basically all or nothing at this point. And Microsoft thinks giving out cumulative updates is better than its previous model of allowing IT managers and users to decide which patches they wanted to install piecemeal. So Jel Belfour, corporate vice president for the company's operating system group, said in an interview he bases his views on conversation with IT pros about using cumulative updates. And so they still think that this is the best way to go, and they're shoving updates down IT administrators' throats, irregard that's not a word, regardless of their maybe an update breaking something. IT administrators like to do, regression testing when they do updates, make sure nothing in their stack is broke down. The UK, and I just find this absolutely incredible. The UK GCHQ is going to go through the blueprints of computer systems of nuclear plants due to be built by Chinese firms in the United Kingdom in a bid to allay security concerns. Their assessment was confirmed on the eve of Chinese President Xi Jinping's four-day state visit to the UK. Security chiefs have reportedly raised concerns with ministers about the security implications of assigning a lot of Chinese companies with links to military establishments to obtain a stake in the 3 planned nuclear power plants. Wow! Wow! Can you even imagine that? That would never, I don't think that would ever happen here in the United States. Those of you in the UK, you're going to let Chinese build you nuclear power plants? Are you guys smoking crack? No way. No way, no how. Little more space news. An asteroid's making a surprise flyby at an unusually high velocity. A newly discovered asteroid will make Halloween more thrilling by passing within 1.3 lunar distance, 310,000 miles of Earth. The object, which measures between 300 and 600 meters. The cross was discovered last week by the asteroid hunting Pan-STARRS Observatory here in Hawaii. According to NASA, it will streak by on October 31st at 35 kilometers per second, around 78,000 miles per hour. That's a little bit fast for that to have come into the Earth's atmosphere. That could have been devastating. Absolutely devastating. So let's be thankful that 310,000 miles, it's not, in the scheme of things, it's very, very small. Our Amazon PR boss is basically blasted New York Times on their expose they did several months ago. The gloves really came off, and they basically called out a variety of the New York Times sources, talking about how they'd been fired. They really went and dug deep. Amazon did. And at the same time, the New York Times came back and basically, of course, Jay Carney is, yes, the Jay Carney that used to be the president's spokesperson or PR person or press guy, whatever he was. He now works at Amazon, and he responded to Jay Carney's Medium post that the New York Times is not taking it laying down. So it's like New York Times took a swing, Amazon took a swing back, and now New York Times has come back over the rope. So it's not pretty, but New York Times has run a number of hit pieces against Amazon. This is not their first go around with this, and it makes you really wonder what the New York Times is really, what their agenda is. It really does. Makes me wonder quite a bit based upon some of the stuff that they've reported on Amazon. Switching gears, Apple has suspended hundreds of apps for stealing personal data from 1 million users. More than 250 iOS apps are found in violation of Apple's App Store privacy policy, scooping up data for millions of users estimated to have downloaded the offending apps. Source DNA, an analytics service that uncovered this seedy behavior, found that the apps were gathering email addresses associated with the user's Apple ID, plus a list of apps the user had installed, serial numbers, and other information that could be used to personally identify and track users. Those were all going back to China. So, not only are you loading apps from American companies, you're loading them from Chinese, and they're calling home to mama. Chinese hacks on against U.S. companies have continued, despite commercial spying pacts, security firm says. 7 U.S. companies have been attacked by government associated with China hackers in the 3 weeks since the U.S. and China announced a pact that banned government spying on companies, a U.S. security firm said Monday. The hacks by actors we have affiliated with the Chinese government targeted 5 technology companies and 2 pharmaceutical companies. U.S. security company CrowdStrike said in a blog post. The first of these occurred the day after the 2 countries struck a landmark pact in which they agreed not to spy on one another to steal business secrets. They are continuing this day, the company said. Are we surprised? No. The agreements are worth nothing. You know what you do with that agreement, that cybersecurity agreement? You take that in the bathroom with you, and you use it for you know what. That's the Chinese don't care. They're not going to stop because we owe them money. They bring all our stuff from China comes here. It's just your iPhone made in China. They know China knows we're not going to do anything. No way. There's never going to be any ramifications. At the same time, ICANN, U.S. senators are leaning on ICANN, and they're basically telling them to quit skirming and open up. 2 leading U.S. senators have warned domain overseer ICANN to stop resisting accountability changes in order to return for controls over their Internet's DNS. John Thune, chairman of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Technology, and ranking member Brian Schatz from here in Hawaii, and this is the first legislation I've seen his name on, and it isn't actually legislation, it's a letter. This guy's actually doing something in Congress? Wow. He signed a letter warning that without significant accountability reforms that empower the community, Congress will not support the transition of IANA contract from the U.S. government to ICANN. I guess I'm going to have to email the senator's office and thank him. This is good. The letter from Congressman Thune and Schatz make it clear on which side they stand. We understand that cross-community working group on enhancing ICANN accountability has been diligently developing such a package of reforms to ensure that the stakeholders, aka the Internet community, can exercise their stewardship role historically played by the NTIA. Significant accountability reforms that empower the community and are developed by the community are necessary for congressional support of any such transition. Not only did these 2 congressional reps send this, the letters followed similar ones sent by European government and registry operators 2 weeks ago as well. So we've all talked about the resistance the IANA has had. They're getting a little more pressure. Well, something about these old folks and not knowing the rules. We've got another person who is potentially in a lot of trouble. CIA Director John Brennan's private account he's been hacked by like a teenager. So apparently the Hillary Rodham Clinton email scandal hasn't stopped the head of the CIA from using his personal, can you believe this guy has an AOL account to stash work-related documents according to a high school student who claims to hacked into them. And he social engineered his way in. And he's proved that he's had access to this guy's email account. And he found a number of documents. By the way, it is not illegal to have a copy of your application for security clearance. That is not it's very private document. It's not one that you want to get in your hands. But that security questionnaire in itself is you can print that out and keep it on record. It's something you can actually download, so it's not something that is illegal to have on a personal email account. I would never want mine there. Matter of fact, the one that I print goes in a safety deposit box. Of course, it doesn't matter now. The Chinese had mine anyway. But so apparently there was other emails stored in his non-government account, contained social security numbers, bad, and personnel information of more than a top dozen American officials, as well as government letters from the use of some procedures. So let's put it this way. Here we have another one. another individual that's using a personal email account. See what happens to him. We'll see if the same rules apply. We'll see if he gets off just like Mrs. Clinton does or has. Uber is starting rolling out its own map making cars, so be on the lookout for an Uber map maker. They're driving around the country doing mapping. I find that interesting. Oh, if you work at the federal government, the White House has told the Fed stop buying new PC laptops right now. Apparently, the administration has ordered U.S. federal agencies to stop, largely because they said too many individual groups are having their own bids. Why aren't these laptops and desktops all under one contract? Makes sense. The government uses a variety of computers. It seems like they could all be ordered underneath one single contract, get volume purchasing discounts, right? But they've told NASA, a group of NASA actually figured out how to umbrella it in so that they get bulk buying, one contract. But here's the challenge that really ends up happening. NASA engineers need a certain type of level of computing, whereas an office worker needs another. So they're going to, be able to stage the type of PCs and stuff that they need. It's probably very, very difficult. Every application needs a little different execution. There's an article over in Politico, and I don't have time to dig too deep on this, but it talks about how a little-known agency mishandled several $1 billion in stimulus money to try to expand broadband coverage to rural communities. And this is really sad. It really is. The Rural Utility Service, who had $3.5 billion of stimulus money to pass out to basically expand rural access. More than 50% of the projects never launched. Many of them are off track. They are over budget in many cases, and some of the money hasn't been executed. They've got $277 million still untapped, which can't be spent elsewhere in other neglected rural communities, and they're going to lose the money at the basically end of November. It's the money's run out. The rules on it are you had to have it engaged. That's how the government works. The government says, here's your pot of cash. Here's what you can apply it to. If you don't get it spent, we're going to take it back. And they do. And you would hope that they would as taxpayers, but it's just too bad. Rural America is still, you look at where my mom's at, they could have probably for $1 million wired all of that rural area easily. And they haven't. Just incredibly, they're like on their 5th or 6th administrator. It's horrible. Horrible performance. Your government work and spending your taxpayer dollars, folks. They just don't do it well because guess what? It's not their money. They don't care. No accountability. It's just like, so what? 50 brilliant science fiction movies that everyone should see at least once. And I'll have a link up in the show notes for that. It's over from io9.com. It's a pretty good list there. I think I've seen most of these, but you'll definitely want to watch them yourself. Microsoft has published early source code of its Open SSH for Windows port for developers to pick apart and improve. So in a blog post on Money, Steve Lee, the PowerShell team's principal software engineer manager, said Redmond has finished the early work on Windows port Open SSH 7.1, and they are they made it available to folks to go ahead and tear apart and make improvements on. So if you're a developer and you're interested, take a look at that. And also, don't forget, you don't have to buy your Star Wars tickets tonight. You can buy them later. That movie is going to be on every screen at every hour and every theater across the country for weeks and months. I don't need to go see it the first day. I'm going to go see it like a week later when I don't have to have some knucklehead breathing on me in the next seat over. So I'm going to wait and see it later when I can enjoy it. But that's the news. I know some of you super fans went out and bought them. Let me open up the email here and see if we've got anything that's not related to the toxic article that I talked about on the last show. And, of course, I didn't have it loaded here. As a reminder, everyone, you can email me here at the show at geeknews@gmail.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at Geek News. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Google Plus. Wherever you may hang out, I'm at. I don't really hang out on Instagram any. I'm not a big Instagram fan. But let me see what I've got here. It's too many emails to even. So the last show was on the 15th. Dave sent me some information on Wi-Fi Assist. He said, "Hey Todd, my wife brought to his attention about iOS 9. Her company instructed company cell phone users to disable Wi-Fi Assist. We've talked about that on this show already, but Dave, I definitely appreciate it. We'll have that link again linked up in the show notes so people can access to it. But everyone else, thank you. You know who you are for sending in your comments, and I'll just say, I don't even dare say first letters because many of you will know who some of these folks are. But I do want to thank Jeff for his article on Apple TV launch. A new set-top box may be released on November 5th. So I do appreciate that. And yeah, I can't. There's just too many folks that have sent stuff. But thank you for your commentary. and and again, please withhold, please withhold, please withhold. Do not tell my name. Do not tell my name. Do not read on the show. Please don't read on the show. Yeah, don't talk about this on the show. So many of you wanted to keep your opinions to yourselves or between you and I apologize. I tried to summarize at the beginning of the show kind of the theme that I was heard, but again, pretty split down the middle. We're pretty left, pretty right. There's not a lot of common ground in the middle. And I'm not surprised at all. I'm really not. So thanks for being part of the Ohana. Thanks for giving me feedback. And I do appreciate everyone's commentary. And we'll leave it at that. These are all news I'd love to read, but I think it just would cause more hate and discontent. We don't want that in the show. I already probably caused enough. But I'll be back with you on Thursday for another show. I'm still scheduled to bounce out of here next week, and then we're going audio only. So I will do the show on the 22nd and on the 26th, and then from there on out, the show will be strictly audio only all the way through the middle of November. I'll be back with you just before Thanksgiving for another live video show on the 23rd. But for 3 weeks solid, I'm going to be on the road, traveling around, going to be definitely doing audio only. So I appreciate all of you as you understand that on the video portion. And I'll put up a final video reminder for people to watch or listen to the audio part of the show starting a little over a week from now. So, but until then, everyone take care. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring you a show tonight. Again, my name is Todd Cochran, geeknews@gmail.com. Don't forget about our sponsor, GoDaddy, and also become an insider, geeknewscentral.com/insider. Everyone take care. We'll see you next time. Aloha.